Welcome in, everybody, to Fantasy Pros MLB. It's time to get our mock draft on. It is me, Joey P, Joe P Zapia, and today we're going to have a 10-team head-to-head Roto Categories mock live just for you, as we promised, all week. And next week, we've got some amazing things going on, too, because we've got 4 hours of fantasy baseball goodness because it's time for Fantasy Fest. So if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to Fantasy Pros MLB. We just hit 10,000 subscribers. We're big time now. That's what we are. And speaking of big time, we've got an incredible draft for you today. We've also got 2 incredible guests and our listeners joining us, which is awesome. We're the People's Show. That's what we always are. So the Welsh, always here, contractually obligated to hang out with me.
Am I a guest? Yeah, you said we have 2 guests. Wait, am I a guest, Joe?
I still treat you well, so you're a guest. Like D-Bro, I'm mean to him because, I see him all the time. I still treat like a guest because... I don't know why. I don't know. I'm not even sure.
You don't treat me that great, Joe. Don't give yourself that much credit. You treat me that great.
Well, I'll treat our guest then, our real guest. You're like a pseudo guest. But I mean, John Legeza from The Athletic. You can follow him on the Twitter machine at John Legeza. John feels like one of my Italian cousins all the time who just comes over for draft season. And John, I know you are crazy this time of year. We appreciate you coming on. So how many mock drafts have you done this year?
Well, right. Why mock when you could burn actual money, right? I guess.
There you go.
I always live in 6th gear, so yeah, I'm definitely ready. My draft done is now in the triple digits easily. So I'm ready.
Yeah. Let's go. So again, just to lay it out for everybody, it's 10 teams, Roto categories, and we have our listeners joining us from our Discord, which you can join as well. It's free. FantasyPros.com/chat. So go join our Discord if you're looking for leagues, if you're looking for people to just talk baseball with. It's where we pull a lot of these, guests that come on the show with us to do these mock drafts. So 7 of our listeners are going to join us today. We got Mr. Buster, we got Kelly Kirby, we got Johnny Quest, Jay Full Metal is going to join us. We love Jay, one of our favorite Peanuts and Cracker Jacks. Who else do we have here? Florin, we've got the Mailman, we've got C.S. Schomer. So I'm like the Schomer. From the Show Me State, I can only assume. We've got 1 catcher. We've got all the infielders. We got corner and middle spots, 4 outfielders, 2 utility spots, and then 2 mandatory SPRP, and the rest are all just pitcher spots with 6 bench. So that's what's going to go on today. I'll be drafting from the 1 spot. We were supposed to draft from the bottom of this draft. That did not happen today. We screwed up. So Chris, our producer, is already mad at us. So we're going to try our best to not embarrass ourselves the rest of the time. John's going to be drafting from the 2 spot, Welsh from the 4. So, gentlemen, let's start our engines. And ladies and gentlemen, we've got a great group here today. Before we get going, too, just a quick reminder, we're going to be giving away that Fantasy Pros premium sub. We're giving out another one, too. Now, John, I know you just had lunch, but it's not that kind of sub. It's a subscription to Fantasy Pros Premium. So the winner that we're going to give is Uncle Ted Talks. So Uncle Ted Talks, congratulations. You won. So get in touch with us at customer support over at mailbag@fantasypros.com. So hit us up again, mailbag@fantasypros.com to claim your prize, Uncle Ted Talks. Welsh is going to do a TED Talk on hairstyles because his hair was incredibly high yesterday.
What was that I heard, by the way? This hatred. What was it that somebody said? You repeat what they said.
Well, I wasn't going hatred. I thought it was funny. They said, oh, my favorite, Joey P and Don King. And your hair was incredibly high yesterday. It was awesome. I'm super jealous of it. John's got pretty good hair as well.
Yeah,
also
baby.
Jealous of that. But we're not just giving away one for Uncle Ted Talks. We're giving another one away soon. So if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe to Fantasy Pros MLB. Make sure you drop comments in the chat below. And just like that, you could win a premium subscription to Fantasy Pros. So go check that out. Again, Uncle Ted Talks. Hit us up. Let's go. So let's
only in America.
Only in America, baby.
Only in America.
That's right. This mock draft is going to be seen by so many millions of people today. It's going to be
Lion and young lion.
All right. So I'm going to make this easy. We'll start the draft here and kick things off. Everybody knows where I'm going to go here. And yes, the draft wizard is probably going to yell at me. It's going to tell me take Aaron Judge, and I'm not going to. It's going to tell me to take Ronald Acuna, and I'm not going to. It might even tell me to take Trey Turner, and I'm not going to, because everybody knows I'm going to take Julio, because Julio, to me, is the best power speed combination. I think the batting average is going to be there. I think everything is going to be there across the board, and I feel best about his potential for a 30-30 season more than anybody else on the board. In the more shallow league, I would consider taking Trey Turner, but instead, I'm going to kick things off with Julio and pass things off to my good friend, Johnny Roast Beef, John Legeza. Johnny,
Man,
who are you taking at the 2 spot here? I've given you the board.
You actually threw me off a little bit because generally it's one of those 2 players. When I'm all the way up top, for me, it's usually format dependent. 5x5 is usually Acuna for the steals. Though the more I look into Judge, he led the universe in everything last year.
Mm-hmm.
But since there are the steals, I think I'm gonna go Acuna because, man, it's funny.
Right.
You have Julio.
Make your pick. There you go.
I think,
okay.
yeah, I have Acuna. I think he's the strongest pop for 40-40. As much as I like Julio, I think Acuna is what we want Julio to be in 24 months or 12 months. So, I mean, they're both great. You really can't lose.
And shout out to all of our Peanuts and Cracker Jacks who are watching the live stream and who are participating in the draft today. A reminder, we've got a 30-second clock, so this is going to move. So keep your cues filled at all times. Make your pick, then you can talk about it. Don't get passed over, because then who knows what grade you're going to get. Aaron Judge goes to Mr. Buster over at 103, another one of our favorites here who always enjoys interacting with us over on the YouTube channel. Remember, leading off starts up again in just 2 weeks, where we go live every single day talking all things fantasy. We'll get DFS. We're going to do wagering. We do all of it, all things MLB, leading off every single day. Welsh, you're going to come up on your pick now at 104. Who'd you take?
Well, I went with Jose Ramirez. And funny enough, if you check out NFBC March 1st on for Draft Champions, there are actually only 3 players that went number 1 overall, which I think is surprising. Aaron Judge, Ronald Acuna, and a guy that I passed on, Trey Turner. Those are the only 3 players since March 1st in all Draft Champions that have gone 1 overall. But in the shorter format, I kind of like the value of getting the best third baseman off the board, because I know I'm still going to be able to get a really good shortstop. I'm covering the stolen bases. I do have Trey Turner higher, but I don't know, at 4 here, this felt a little bit better, just shoring up my third baseman with similar stats, getting a little bit more RBI here, and I'll get one of my shortstops a little bit later. Our boy, Willie Adames or something like that, Joe.
I got to tell you, if I was at 104, I'd be taking Jose Ramirez as well. I even thought about taking him at 101, because I feel like I agree 100% in the shorter format. You might have a little bit of ease here with the outfield. Now, we do have 4 outfielders and 2 utility spots in this draft, too. So you are going a little deeper to offset the fact that it's 10 teams. Trey Turner goes all the way at 1-6 to Johnny Quest. And then Jay Full Metal takes Juan Soto at 107. Mookie Betts at 108. Jordan Alvarez at 109. John, I want to ask you about Alvarez real quick here. Let's talk about it, because Alvarez, with the hand issue, says he's going to start swinging the bat. That all seems to be moving in the right direction. But do you have any concerns long-term about this hand issue coming up for him, maybe again during the season?
Yeah, of course. Of course I do. One, because we saw it greatly impact him in August, right? Again, he's on the shortest list for best hitters in the universe. And it totally hampered him throughout August. My issue is that it's something that was supposed to get better with rest that didn't need surgery. And he just had 3 months of rest or 4 months of rest, and he wasn't able to pick up a bat yet. Now it's, okay, he can swing now. What did that 8 days really do in the grand scheme of things? So we also know when he came back, he was excellent. So it's going to be all about plate appearances. And I think if you still can get him to 525, he still has a chance to return value. But I'm certainly worried, where I thought he was in the case for the top 5 picks, really. He's right behind Judge, minus a few steals. So I'm worried. I'm not taking him at 7 anymore, if that's what you mean. Like high stakes drafts, I'm not taking him at 7, but I'm not letting him pass me at 13.
Okay. Also, just want to remind everybody, of course, we're using our multi-user draft software over on FantasyPros. It's available in the Draft Wizard. Go download the app now, or go head over and run some mock drafts with some other live people if you don't want to use the simulator. FantasyPros.com/draft wizard. But again, everybody uses the app. The app is cool. Go download the app there. Continuing on with the draft here, we have, after Alvarez at the turn, Shohei Ohtani at 110, and Corbin Burns goes next. After that, Manny Machado at 202. Mike Trout at 203, Vlad Guerrero at 204. Great value there. He seems to be going in the right direction health-wise. Freddie Freeman dealing with an injury at 205. Bobby Witt to our friend Kelly Kirby at 206. And the Welsh is up again at 207. Where are you going, Welsh?
Oh, well, I really wanted Freddie Freeman, but I'm not. Do I want to do this? You know what? We're going to do this in a shorter format. I'm going to knock in Garrett Cole here. Bo Bichette is who I was thinking about. Freddie Freeman, I was dreaming about. I usually don't take 2-round starting pitchers. But again, we're in a 10 team. I feel like I have a little bit more flexibility. I like some of the first basemen on the board. Fernando Tatis is almost who I took here, but I just feel like I can mix around a little bit and getting top players at their position, top tier players, if you will. Garrett Cole, not usual, typical one, but 10 team, there's still great hitters out there, and I'm just shoring up that rotation.
Yeah, well, I would have taken Tatis. He went, and then after Mr. Buster took him, the other guy in my queue went to
Yeah.
John, Pete Alonso. Let's talk about him, John, while I make my picks.
Yeah, I think the Pete Alonso pick is as much about the Acuna pick. Had I gone with Judge and the pure power, I might have gone with someone with more speed, maybe like a Bichette. But given, I had the balance right, at least I hope, with Acuna, I think I could go with more pure power in Alonso. Now, man, there's so many different ways to go. I think I'm going to go with Jacob deGrom light, and I'm going to go with Spencer Strider, who I think
There we
is
go.
probably right behind deGrom as far as impact on a per inning basis. We saw, I think he finished inside the top 20 SP on 131 or 33 innings, if I'm not mistaken. So if we can get 165 or 70 out of Strider, I'm a little bit surprised we haven't heard about him finishing in the first round. But if
well,
you get
I'll tell you what, man.
he will.
I'll tell you what, Spencer Strider, people asking me the question, they've seen me on other mock drafts where I take him as my number one SP. I have no problem with Spencer Strider as a number one SP. I'd rather have him than deGrom at this point in their respective careers. And you make a great point. This is a player on a per inning basis that's giving you just incredible productivity. I think Alcantara also just doesn't get enough respect for his durability in the last couple of years too, and how good he's been. Back at the turn at 210 and 301, I took Austin Riley and Bo Bichette.
Love
so
that.
Taking care of some infield there. I think Bichette was a great win there. It was between Devers and Riley. I took Riley, better team, again, better offensive ecosystem, if you will. Strider goes next to John, then Rafael Devers to Mr. Buster. Then the Welsh, you went to the first base well at 304. Let's talk about it.
That's actually why Pete Alonso was heavy on my short list in that second round, but I thought I could not get him to get Paul Goldschmidt to come back, so that's why I pivoted. My short list was Alonso, Tatis, Bichette, and Garrett Cole, but now I'm going to walk out of the first three rounds with one of the top first basemen, one of the top third baseman, and one of the top SPs. I feel like in a 10 team, this is the type of advantage of getting the elite players near the top and not freaking out too much, especially with taking a starting pitcher in the second round, because values are just going to keep going here. So I'm ecstatic to get Paul Goldschmidt, and I probably would have pivoted to even taking Devers had he still been there, even though I have a third baseman in Jose Ramirez. I wouldn't be able to pass it up, but Goldie, love it.
There you go. So Goldie goes to Welsh at 305. Then Kelly Kirby takes Francisco Lindor at 304. Welsh gets Goldschmidt 305. Francisco Lindor 306. Nolan Arenado goes to Johnny Quest. Then Jay takes Sandy Alcantara. You heard me talking about him. Randy Arozarena, great power speed combination outfielder at 308 to Floor. Then Jose Altuve goes to the mailman at 309. At the turn at 310, Aaron Nola, Shane Bieber, two pitchers, lots of pitchers there at the bottom board there. So we'll see what the Chomers got. Max Scherzer goes next at 402. As we continue to look at this pitching run here, now it's starting to happen a little bit. So Welsh, are you targeting pitching on the way back here, or are you going to let it go and keep pounding on offense?
I'm looking at, and I'm looking at a certain player that might happen. Just letting everybody know. Randy Arozarena was the guy that I really wanted, though, and that kind of bummed me out that he went there. I thought I could maybe sneak him back, because the one thing I've been pounding the table about is outfield, and I haven't taken one. Again, 10 team. But there's a couple really good value players, and one is of a risk. We'll see if he makes it back to me. If I don't get the starting pitcher that I'm alluding to, who just went, Jacob deGrom, that was a player I would have taken.
You didn't have to make that decision.
I think I'm going to pivot. I think I'm going to pivot to a position player, and I'll tell you when we get there who it is. And then I think fifth round, I might be looking at SP. So that's my tentative plan right now.
The strategy as we lay it out. So Marcus Semien goes after Scherzer at 403, 404 Jacob deGrom, and then Kyle Schwarber at 405. Kelly Kirby's on the clock at 406. So hopefully she'll stick it to you, because that's typically what Kelly does. She's very smart.
Yep.
She's going to probably take the person you want. She took Matt Olson. So certainly somebody on my queue. First base is rough. Make sure you get your first baseman. So Welsh, where do you go next?
She left a couple people on the board. This is actually a pretty tough decision. Man, I don't know how. There's someone I'm curious at how long I can let slide if it's going to be possible. But we're going to do this. I think this is a pretty decent slide. This is a roto. This isn't a points. I'm going to snap up Michael Harris here at 37 with the
Okay.
stolen bases. I think this is a crazy good value, even though there's a couple people I wanted to draft here. And this is my first outfielder. So I'm pretty happy about that. And
So
stolen
obviously
bases.
you have confidence that Michael Harris can repeat an incredible rookie performance because it was incredible. I don't want to say it came out of nowhere, but it certainly exceeded expectations.
Yeah, I'm worried about the walk numbers. I think you should be because I think that leaves him a little bit like less versatile if he struggles, but he put up big power speed numbers. He's going to hit at the top of one of the best offensive lineups in baseball. So those things aren't in question. It's just when you don't walk a whole bunch, you're taking a little bit off the table for yourself if you go through big struggles. And he really didn't last year. So that is the worry about him. But, again, this is a 2020 potential that I'm getting in the 4th round here.
Okay, after that, Mr. Buster took Verlander, who I was planning on taking, did not happen. John, you took Jazz Chisholm, so let's talk about him at 409. Certainly a player with enormous upside, but maybe more downside than people realize. What do you envision for him in 2023 in terms of ups and downs?
Oh man, a roller coaster ride, which is so exciting, man. Give me all the blue hair. It comes down to formats. I play enough formats and do enough drafts that sometimes if you're a little too strict, like I am, high stakes arena from time to time. Joey, you clipped me, man.
Joe's such a
I
dirt
love-
bag. He's such a dirt. Just to stop your analysis, John. Joe
I will
Pizzaglia is
pause
such
the
a
draft so you can
dirt
mock
bag.
me.
Such a
because in
dirt
this mock
bag for
draft,
those
there's a lot
two
of
picks.
mocking.
Specifically, Shane McClanahan was everything I wanted on the planet. What a dirt bag.
Well, I mean, this is the plus of doing a shorter, more shallow league is, when you're at the turn, you can double up. I'm going to resume things here. I want to make sure you got your shots in on me. But yes, after Chisholm went, I did take Woodruff and McClanahan, much to the chagrin of the boys. Edwin Diaz was also in my realm, but Welsh knows that's more of a Welsh pick, less of a Joey P pick. I kind of stay away from the closers. I take my time there, especially in a more shallow league, even with the mandatory RP spots, because look, Woodruff and McClanahan, two very good pitchers, but certainly physical concerns as well. Woodruff has missed time in every season, and last year, McClanahan dealt with some injury issues too. So there's risk here, but I feel like I got two potential aces here to go along with Julio, Bo Bichette, and Austin Riley is a pretty good offense. So now that you've got Chisholm, you're back on there. You went catching here. So talk to me, John, about why a catcher in the shallow league with Real Muto. First off the board, but is it enough advantage in a shallow league for you?
In my younger years, I would have never made a pick like that. And I wish Sugar Shane fell, but I would say this, even in shallow leagues, getting 600 and north of that, 625, 650 quality plate appearances from a catcher is still a way to differentiate yourself and create separation from the field. It is true. Catcher does kind of become a glove, and I do think it's even deeper than it's been in past years. That said, I don't think the field has caught up to JTR, Will Smith. I'm not sure if you have Varsho penciled in there. Some people think he could see the 2-hole in Toronto. And again, for every spot in the batting order you move up, you get an extra 35 PAs, 45 PAs, which would tip the scale. I wanted to lock that up, although I really wanted either McClanahan or Woodruff. If I could just go real quick on both those guys, because you mentioned injuries, I'm not worried. Woodruff, the Tunnel syndrome is really not something that should worry him. He went to like a biomechanicist and they worked on his mechanics to kind of ease where the stress was. And you saw him dominate afterwards, like pure. It was pure domination. So they're looking forward with the new kind of delivery system that shouldn't be an issue. And then to McClanahan, I know people are a little bit worried about the arm thing at the end of the year. I went and checked it out. He threw quite literally, his very best fastball after returning. 99 with all the V move, all the H move that we were looking for. He's the man. I think people are kind of selling him short. If we hadn't seen him pitch, I would get it. We saw him pitch. He looked great. He looked great in the playoffs. Wheels up for Sugar McClanahan.
You know who looked great today? I was watching just before we came on the show was Justin Verlander. He was absolutely filthy just now. I don't know if you guys caught that at all. I think he struck out 6 guys at one point out of the 7 batters he faced. I mean, I know it's, not always facing the top tier guys, but best shape of your life, Justin Verlander, I think actually is. Just watching him pitch right now, he looks fantastic. So I wanted him. You got me, Mr. Buster. Mr. Buster turned back around the 5th round and took Edwin Diaz at 503. Then Welsh, you took Corey Seager at 504. We've been talking quite a bit about what Corey Seager's potential is without that dramatic shift in place, and you're investing.
Yeah, and that was the guy I was thinking about even in the previous round, just because I wanted to shore up and get him. But gonna, one of the most shifted players, really low BABIP last year. All things gonna work in his favor. A team that definitely has some offensive support that is led by him. He is just one of those guys I'm trying to get on every single team. And one of the things I like about this build, though there's a little bit of volatility with Michael Harris, I've got really good batting average. I've got kind of stolen bases across the board that I can afford a guy like Seager. And I've said it with shortstop. I just don't like the bottom end of what happens with shortstop. Even though everyone's like, oh, it's deep, it's not. It's a completely different tier of players that you're risking. I don't feel any risk with Corey Seager. So I've got everybody but my second base locked up as far as my middle infield goes.
All right, speaking of guys who do everything, 505, Cedric Mullins goes to Kelly Kirby, of course, the smartest person in the room most days, especially any room that Mike Mayer's in. See, Mayer's not even here, and I still got to dig in Mike Mayer. I love you, Mike. Congrats, by the way. Mike just had another a child, a young daughter, so congratulations there, Mayer. He's a daddy of two now, which means he's going to have a hard time keeping up with all the fantasy leagues he's in. Let's continue on here. Luis Robert goes to Johnny Quest at 506, then Dylan Cease at 507. Zach Wheeler at 508, Emmanuel Classe at 509. Oh, this one makes me mad, Welsh. At the turn, Corbin Carroll goes off the board. I don't get Corbin Carroll.
It's what I was going to do coming back. 100,000%. I was taking Corbin Carroll coming back. So,
and then Dalton Varsho 601. So Chalmer making up for lost time here, going with all the current and former Diamondbacks on that roster. Then Christian Javier right out of my queue and onto the Mailman's team at 602. Julio Urias at 603. Another guy from the Joey PQ, Ozzy Albies at 604. It is always tough to go against our Peanuts and Cracker Jacks. This team is prepared at all times. It's a great crew over here, and we want you to join us and be part of it. Adolis Garcia, 605 to Johnny Quest. Kelly then comes around and takes Kevin Gossman at 606. The Welsh, you're on the clock at 607. What do you got?
A lot of pieces of my queue here. Ozzy Albies was at the top. Julio Urias was the next. I also have a Kevin Gausman, but I am going to jump into this. You said I like to have more consistent closers, and Josh Hader still on the board in the 6th round is just a great deal. So I'm going to get my first closer, even though I only have one SP. I just see a lot of depth because remember, it's 10 teams. There's so much more depth. I prioritize kind of top tier across the board than trying to make sure I fill out this entire starting pitching core, because we're just going to have so many better players. Our SP2s and 3s are going to just be exponentially better than most of the mock drafts we do because it's 10.
Yeah, that's true. Unless somebody, goes and keeps taking 2 pitchers at a clip at the turn.
Yeah, there's some monster keeps taking all of our players.
So George Springer goes at 608. Johnny Boy takes Luis Castillo at 609. John, let's talk about this starting pitcher and your expectations for him in 23.
Yeah, that big pitching kind of blob that everyone was so in love with because it was going so late is now like, the Creep Show movie. It's creeping near the end of the lake there. You know what I mean? Where it can jump up and grab us. And where a guy like Javier might have fallen to me 3 weeks ago or a month ago, that's now gone. So Castillo to me really represents the last of the kind of aces. I know he's not a 1-8 ace, right? I'm not going to argue he's Corbin Burns, but I do think he's every bit as good as the guys going there. And I think something we're showing the listeners out there is, those cues go from kind of fat to kind of skinny really quick.
Yeah,
and as much as we like to wait and shallow league this and shallow league that, prioritize. And even though it's a mock, I'm already a little upset because I think I could have maybe passed on Jazz for McClanahan, who, again, I put my money where my mouth is. He's my AL Cy Young pick. I have money on him for the award. I just think he's everything like he was made in the lab.
Make your next pick here. I'm going to give you time to think about it. And the great thing is when you have the draft wizard and you have the premium tools at Fantasy Pros, it tells you those things like, hey, the guy picking after you doesn't have a pitcher yet, so you might want to take one now, and you'll probably loop around and take Jazz Chisholm. Those kind of insights are exactly the kind of software that we have here. Again, it's part of our Fantasy Pros package here with our premium subscription. You get all kinds of bells and whistles to the draft assistant with sync that goes right to your draft. So that stuff that John's talking about, no regrets. You don't have to worry about those things because we tell you exactly what's going on and where those picks should be made and who's got what on which team. And those kind of insights are super important. I went ahead and took Alek Manoah at 610 and then Eloy Jimenez at 701. Eloy. My boy Eloy. And Alex Bregman then goes to John at 702. I think that's a tremendous value. John and I both taking hitters I think that are really due for good 2023 seasons. What are your thoughts on Bregman, John?
I actually absolutely love Alex Bregman. I wonder if it's a narrative thing with the whole cheating thing. He's been great. He's been great and even gone through some injuries. And again, I think something you speak about a lot. we kind of bang guys for not being gamers, for missing games. And if they play and we don't get 100%, we're not happy with that either. So I think Bregman is infinitely talented. It's a fantastic context. Third base is a bit shallow. I went Alonso over Riley. So I really didn't want to fall back to where I'm punting third, because it can get ugly late. It might not be as bad as some people paint it as. The pick I really liked and is Teoscar Hernandez.
That was sniped. I audibly got pissed because I got sniped on him.
Well, let's talk about it, Welsh.
The outfielder demand would move. I'm curious what you guys think. I had Derek Hardy on my show, and I had him kind of doing the dip, duck, and dodge a little bit. People now with the humidor, well, people like Derek, orders of magnitude smarter than I am, clearly, right? Obviously. They're using 3-year averages still for park factors and stuff. Now, I'm not saying more data is worse than less data. However, we've changed the constant, being the inception of the universal humidor, and then how that affects the equilibrium of the ball, which they changed. They lowered the core, raised the seams, a lot of variables. So that was kind of my point. When we knew that we had one constant changed, I've only been using 1 year of data. Seattle, this is the reason I mentioned it. So if you look at 3 years worth of data, Seattle is neutral to right-handed hitters. If you're to look at just last year alone, it's top 5 in home run to fly ball, home run to barrel, and home run to blast. This is home runs to right-handed hitters. I like to split, handedness for that stuff. Derek Hardy's bat system, which I absolutely love. If you look, gentlemen, he's the lowest of everybody as far as the majors go on Julio. He's the lowest as everybody goes as far as Teoscar Hernandez. So I said, well, Derek, is this because am I misusing the data? My thought wasn't, oh, I'm right and Derek is wrong. How stupid would that be? Mine was, what am I doing wrong here? And to be honest, he said, I'm not saying that I'm right and anyone's right or wrong. We're not sure. So there's a potential for edge there where even the very smart people are a bit unsure because the data set has changed. And we all know there are people who absolutely subscribe to projections. So if somebody's so hooked on Julio's home run projection, but when I challenged it, I got, well, remember, it's an error bar. Just be willing to push up against it. So I'm wondering what you guys think about Seattle, because it's just been at such a focal point of some of my work. I'm very high now on Julio and Teoscar.
Well, I mean, I'm as high as it gets on Julio. Welsh has always been a big Julio guy. And Teoscar is somebody that Welsh does like.
You only took him 101. You could have taken him 101.
Look, I know, right? I can't take him any higher than I did. You Darvish, Welsh, you ended up with who was somebody on my queue. So let's talk about you, Darvish, and we'll recap the other picks here at 7:04.
Yeah, I was an absolute snipe. I thought I was locked in to get Teoscar. He was the best offensive player I had left on the board to get some more outfield. I did need pitching, and I need to focus more on pitching, so that ended up probably being a saving grace if we're really being honest about it. I love everything Teoscar is, but you, Darvish, we're looking at, again, if I'm going to invest early on in like Garrett Cole, I want to make sure that I'm also locking in the strikeouts. I got that with Darvish, prioritizing pitchers on really good offensive supported teams. It was just kind of a no-brainer for you, Darvish, at that point, but it was a complete pivot because my heart was like, Teoscar. Like it was a gut punch to me and I wasn't ready for it.
Well, we're coming back to you in a second, so let's keep going with these picks. 7:05, Max Fried, then Starling Marte, who was under my consideration, 7:06. 7:07, Jordan Romano, then Devin Williams, Brian Reynolds, and Tim Anderson to end the 7th. To start the 8th round, Adley Rutschman, Jose Abreu, Zach Gallen, Ryan Presley, Tommy Edman, Framber Valdez goes a few picks before me, unable to get him. So, Welsh, where are you going next?
Well, it was him. It was Framber Valdez. I mean, my God, just a...
You don't want to draft next to Kelly Kirby.
Look, so we got to move him up now. You got to move him up.
Yeah, no, I was snap taking him, but that one... that one hurt. That one definitely hurt. So you know what we're going to do?
Well, you only have 8 seconds.
I'm going to fill up one of my util spots with one of my favorite players to take a gamble on. I'm going to take O'Neal Cruz, even though I got a shortstop. Big power, big speed. I want to make sure I'm locking in those stolen bases. I can put him at middle infield or util here. And I have such good batting average on this team with Goldie and Seager and Ramirez that I think it helps with the volatility of Cruz. So this is a good pivot. I wanted him. I was going to try to get him in the next round, but let's just get our guy because nothing is working out for me right now.
All right, so Cruz goes to Welsh. Mr. Buster on the clock just selects Wander Franco, which pisses me right the hell off. So way to go, Mr. Buster. Good job. As usual, you are right on time. Tyler O'Neill goes to John. Then it's up to me again. Andres Jimenez, I've been almost took him in the last round. I'm going to go ahead and take him here. So solidify my second base here, make sure I get some more stolen bases.
Brutal.
And then it's just a matter of, again, do I want to get any sort of closer now or do I want to push my luck and wait? And you know me, I like to push my luck and wait. The value on the board right now is actually Will Smith. And I am not somebody who takes catcher, especially in the shallow league. But you know what? I don't like the rest of the board very much. I'm going to go ahead and take him here at catcher and pull, maybe like as John said, maybe in my younger days, not something I would
Yeah,
do, but now
we're
that
getting
I'm so
old.
old, yeah,
We're getting
that's what
old.
happens. All right, John, you will go ahead and you just made your other pick too. So let's
Yeah.
talk about your two guys. Let's talk about Tyler O'Neill and Robbie Ray. Robbie Ray, obviously, you're going to get the strikeouts with him, but talk about Tyler O'Neill here in St. Louis. What are your thoughts?
Again, it's always format dependent, keeping an eye on the outfield and the
Mhm.
scarcity, and sticking with players that I think can really move the needle. Right, 10-team formats is not the time to pick the vanilla ice cream. Right, that you save that for the deeper leagues. It's a truth. We want the players that can absolutely move the needle. We've seen hints of godlike power from O'Neill, really up there with the very top of the board, and he's shown some speed. We've even gotten batting average at times. So if we just get health in the middle of that lineup, he's the kind of guy that could be a 30-25 kind of guy, or like a 35-20 guy, 95-95, and even if he gets you 265, that's a monster pick for where he's going. I think people's worries are the same as my own, right? We've seen some flaws in the disciplinary basket with the swing and miss stuff.
Mhm.
I don't know, man. Maybe he just needs to lift more weights. I don't know.
That's my answer for
Probably not.
everything. Just
I
lift
know,
more weights,
me too,
bro.
obviously.
That's what
Me
I
too.
do. Yeah.
You even lift,
All right,
bro?
let's
You even
go.
lift, Joe?
Bruh,
even lift,
you even
bruh?
lift, bruh? Do you even fantasy baseball, bruh?
Bruh. Carlos Rodon goes to Mr. Buster there. So all the nice things I said about you, you're already in a deficit. It's an interesting value there. Welsh, do you think at 903 you take the flyer on Rodon here?
Nope.
I think
Nope.
it's a little early still.
I don't.
Just a tad.
Yeah, no, I'm not touching that. I don't hate it or anything like that, but I'm not doing that. He's been like the top lift on here, but the injury puts some serious. Though, like I've had multiple conversations with people about this. Rodon really put a wet blanket on like the injury concerns. He's like, listen, if this is October or playoff run or whatever,
Right.
like I'm playing, I'm pitching, but we want to be good the whole season. So that's something to feel good about. But trusting these guys is a little bit more of a question. I'm just personally
Trusting
not going down
him
that road.
specifically is a little bit more of a question.
Yeah, he's
because he
also
has
got
not been
plenty
the
of these
picture of
issues,
health.
so no thanks.
No. All right. So after Rodon, you took Gunnar Henderson, Welsh at 904. Great selection there. We're very high on this player. I have investments on him for Rookie of the Year in the American League. So Welsh, what do you think about Gunnar Henderson here at 903?
Yeah, listen, I hope people like fully understand too, when you're at 10, obviously full on team construction is important, but you have so much more of an ability to just take the best available players. And especially in our roster construction, we got 2 util, we had the corner, we got the middle. Yes. Have I had shortstop filled when I took O'Neill Cruz? Yes. Did I have third base locked in with Ramirez? Yes. But why not take the best available players, take it off the board, shore up both of those as really good spots. Plus there's flexibility. It's a no-brainer because I also see a very big tier of pitchers, relievers, and starters that are out there that I felt no need to reach on any of them. So again, I think I'm putting together a crazy offense. My pitching is going to be the big key on how the system ends up liking it.
All right, so we'll see if the system approves or not. Raisel Iglesias goes to Kelly Kirby at 905. Then Xander Bogaerts to Johnny Quest at 906. Your boy, Byron Buxton, or last year's boy anyway, 907. I was even starting to think about, wow, he's slipping pretty far. I might even take a shot on him.
It was on my mind.
Nate Lowe at 908. Willie Adames, another one of our favorites, at 909. Vinny Pasquantino, another guy out of my queue, and on to Chomer's team at 910. And they are on the turn, taking Chris Bryant next. Bryant's an interesting one. John, real quick, give me your thoughts on Chris Bryant, because his draft stock is kind of all over the place. Are you somebody that's buying at the right price or just avoiding at most costs?
I almost have no choice but to get some exposure because I was off of him. I drafted so much throughout the entire year that I wasn't on him. When he showed up to spring training and hit a home run, I have to be cognizant of the fact that a former MVP might be healthy in Coors, right? You just can't hand wave that away. You just can't do that. And I've been very reticent of Coors hitters and what it does to them on the road. Guy like CJ Cron, almost like it felt like 100% of that productive season all happened at home. He was a replacement level player or worse on the road last year. So I don't even think you could really hitch a wagon. Like, I don't think you'll ever hear me saying wheels up for Bryant, but I'm getting pieces. And again, this is probably the format where it's okay. If you hit on the max outcome for Chris Bryant and Coors, it's pretty delicious.
Yeah. All right. Let's continue on looking at the picks here that have gone through after Pasquantino and Chris Bryant. Dansby Swanson, who fell very far here, 1002. Sal Perez at 1003. Correa at 1004. That's the thing about the shallow league. You are going to get some incredible discounts, guys. Just get pushed a little further, depending on when the runs are that happen for which team. Then Clayton Kershaw at 10:05. Kelly's up next. She selects Batista from the Baltimore Orioles. Welsh, 10:07. She got you again, didn't
I'm
she?
so sick of Kelly. I'm
Me too.
so
Top of
sick.
my queue again.
Kelly is pissing me off, and we did so. I'm gonna burn the tiara. I hope she knows that the tiara is gone. You have ruined it. She is making me mad. I'm gonna go with the next best because I wanted Felix. I'm gonna go with Ryan Helsley. I'm gonna take him off the board. Big flame throwing pitcher. Looks like he's got the gig. Questions. Gallegos, playing in WBC, looking pretty good as well. But it seems like Helsley's got the spot locked up. So I'm gonna get my second closer because I just don't want to mess around with it. I want to have my guys. I don't want to be digging from a gross pool, even though it's 10 team. And again, I've got a couple players in different positions that I think are kind of clumped together. So I'm not feeling the necessity to lock in, one specific guy as far as hitters go or even starting pitchers.
All right. So after you took Helsley, then we had Luis Severino, one of my guys, at 10:08. We'll talk about John's pick in a second because we're going to go back to back. He took Kenley Jansen, who was on my board. I'm going to take Joe Musgrove, who I can't believe is still there. Ooh-wee. I'm excited about that. And then it's a matter of oh my God. You just gave me a Joe Musgrove, Alek Manoah, Shane McClanahan, Brandon Woodruff pitching staff.
It's probably the best pitching staff anyone's put together so far.
Well, the problem is I need a little bit more power, a little bit more offense. So I'm going to go ahead and take Anthony Santander because I think the power is for real. He's legit there. And that outfield, I don't care if it's a 10-team league, an 8-team league. Outfield is rough. You got to have a plan for it. Kenley Jansen and Taylor Ward were the 2 picks that you made, John. So let's talk about those before we get to Welsh's next.
Yeah, I needed a closer. As much as I love to churn and punt it back, Jansen, for whatever reason, if it's the pitch clock narrative, that I don't think even matters, he's got to be one of the leaders probabilistically for 40 saves. Boston has been known to use a exclusive closer, and they just gave him, the bag to close games for them. So I think Jansen is a fantastic pick, and diagnostically, he's still very strong. Velo was good, pitch shape was good, all that wonderful stuff. The other one, I'm kind of preparing the listeners for the Taylor Ward inflation. I just did a high stakes auction league with reigning champion Kramatola and other champion DiPietro, a couple of the really sharp dudes. And Taylor Ward broke his max bid by 40%. Like he went over, I think he went $7 or $8 over the previous max. So there's a couple things at work here. One is the love for Ward and the potential leading off in the Angels offense with his disciplinary skills, contact quality with some speed. There's a chance he's a 115-run guy. I don't necessarily know if I think that, but I think more than anything is he's the last of that ilk. And when that's the case, something I hear you talk about all the time, Joe, right? That pressure that happens with the very last player, the inflation is so real for Taylor Ward. So I'm just getting people ready because if you're kind of looking at the rankings, he wasn't by ADP, it wasn't his time, right? But I'm on the wheel more or less. I'm not waiting. So I really like Ward. A healthy Trout and Ohtani, man, that's a really dangerous one too. So yeah,
it is. Look, the Angels are sink or swim, Johnny, for me. They're either going to be really good or they're going to be selling off Ohtani in early July.
Over 90 or under 75 wins, right?
I thought you were going to go with George Kirby because I almost took another pitcher too, but I needed more offense.
I'm worried about the strike. I'm really worried about the strikeout.
That's fair. That's fair. Well, there's another pitching run here because Kirby goes at 11:03 to Buster. Then you took Logan Webb, Welsh. You took him over Logan Gilbert, which again, that's a choice that that's still where you have those guys.
They're close. Yeah, I think they're close. Yeah, Logan Webb just a tiny bit higher. Logan Gilbert, I love the additional.
And Blake
splitter.
Snell, your boy, went at 11:09. You didn't take your boy.
Did.
Oh man! I want to play for Welsh so bad, man.
What's happening, man?
Dang, man!
Gotta get some bro. My favorite all time was being in the backfields, and someone was like, "Hey, Blake," and he's like, "Man, I can't stop. I gotta get hydrated." It was like the most naturally funny thing I've ever heard in my life. He is one of the low-key funniest people, just in how he reacts to people.
We got to get him on the show. We got to get Blake Snell on the show. He's not doing anything 4 days a week. He's not doing anything. He pitches once a week. All right, so Logan Webb, let's talk about him for a second here. Steady presence, one of these guys that I feel like gets underappreciated every single year, but you can really count on, which I think is great.
Yeah, one thing I'm a little bit worried about, we were talking about this over the last week is, a lot of people are banking on the Arizona Diamondbacks being a better team, and that would come at the expense of maybe the Dodgers and the Giants. So I'm a little bit worried about them getting hit up, but they just put together these boring teams with these great pitching staffs. Logan Webb is a floor pitcher for sure. Like, I could have tried to go a little bit upside. Hunter Green went a little bit ago. That's one that you could take a look at. Guys like George Kirby, but I just wanted a little bit of floor to go with Darvish and Garrett Cole, and I just didn't feel the necessity to jump. I also took him over Tristan McKenzie, which I'm not really big on Tristan McKenzie this year, but I was just going for a guy that's going to give me some eat up innings, give me some cheap wins in a division that, it kind of seems like it's up more in the air than ever before.
All right, let's continue to recap some of these picks here because they're flying off the board. Nestor Cortez goes 11:05, then 11:06. Reese Hoskins, Tristan McKenzie, Christian Yelich, Blake Snell. Oh man, 11:02. 11:09. Then at 11:10, we have Jorge Polanco and Hunter Green at the turn at 12:01. Lance Lynn, my guy, at 12:02. Man, he looked good the other night for WBC too. Kyle Wright at 12:03. Logan Gilbert finally gone at 12:04. Giancarlo Stanton, who I had on my queue as well, he is gone. And on to Johnny Quest team at 12:05. Christian Walker, also on my queue, he's gone. So now I'm mad at Kelly too. Kelly's one of our favorite people at Fantasy Pros. She does a phenomenal job. If there's an article out there you're reading on Fantasy Pros, by the way, chances are that Kelly had some sort of hand in it in some fashion. She's the best. So we tease her because we love her, and she tolerates us. Next is Jake McCarthy looking for steals. Well, she got him at 12:07.
Yeah, well, I'm just looking for some outfield depth. I've done a very poor job of what I usually want to do in developing my outfield. And this is like the thing I tell people to make sure you don't do. 10-man, I get a little bit more flexibility. I think McCarthy's going to regress quite a bit. And I've said it for months that I think Corbin Carroll is going to outsteal them. But McCarthy does have the gig. He does have the job overall. I just think offensively it's going to be a little bit lower. But I needed some outfield depth, and he was kind of falling.
No, it's definitely a good pick there. Then Gleyber Torres goes. You took one of my guys, JD Martinez. We're going to talk about that in a second. I just took Camilo Doval. I got to make my second pick here really quick as well. So might as well look for some fun and some upside, right? I mean, you know me, I'd rather make sure I get my guy. So I'm going to go ahead and get Andres Munoz. I don't care if it's a reach alert. I really don't care. I don't trust anybody else in this room. JD Martinez to you. John, you're up on the clock again, and you just took Ian Happ. So JD, I love this selection here. That is, if you didn't take him, I was going to. So you crushed that. Yes. To me, another one of these great players being underappreciated, under-rostered, underdrafted. So talk about him and talk about Happ real quick.
Dude, JD just underproduced, man. He had a better than 12% barrel rate. It's phenomenal. This is the player we've always wanted. The problem, he didn't run hot on the barreled balls. 49 barrels. He only had 16 home runs, 33% barrel home run rate. Totally unsustainable. He's also going to the, I mean, it's not even a reclamation project. He's fine. The Dodgers are the best analytically driven team there is. He's going to be great. And they were pretty outward about not pushing him to the outfield. So as much as I want the eligibility, I feel like this is a double UT league. So you don't have to really worry about it too much, right? It doesn't really hamstring you as much as it would. He should be in the lineup, anchoring, cleaning up for the Dodgers every single day. This price across all formats is horribly mispriced. He's a huge misprice.
I agree. And I think it's because it's the DH thing, too. It throws people off. I'm like, who cares?
Right.
This is the thing I never understood. I would always be aggressive with guys like, David Ortiz back in the day. Like, well, I don't like it because he clogs it with the DHs. Clogs it up with what? 35 home runs?
With his MVP award. With his MVP award.
It's just so stupid. I always hated when people would say things like that. If you got a great hitter there, it's Nelson Cruz, another guy, always every year. And the older he got, the more people disregarded him, and it was just a stupid thing to happen. Mr. Buster took Nick Castellanos, who I thought real long and hard about, but I decided to go and get both of my closers here. Max Muncy to Welsh. No surprise there, Welsh. You've talked quite a bit about Muncy in the last couple weeks. 1304. You happy?
Yeah, I mean, I needed a second baseman, a little bit of flexibility. His XBA, his batting average stunk. His XBA was better than that, but it was still relatively low on the year. But this is a guy that I'm going to play for the bounce back. I'm going to play the multi-position eligibility. I also wanted homers. The more that I was looking, you want to pay attention to your roster construction, taking a look at, having like a Jake McCarthy and what if Harris does regress a little bit. I want to make sure that I'm still pounding power in stolen bases because like guys like Quan were kind of intriguing, even though I think he's kind of busty this year. You're
Yeah, I
starting
was
to get
gonna say
intrigued
you of
by
all people being
well, you're getting,
intrigued
get
this year.
intrigued by players like him, but then if you do, you got to pay attention that you're stacking your power still. Otherwise, you're going to get behind. But yeah, I think Muncy for second base here is a solid, and he can, has, like I said, roster flexibility to move around.
Okay, so Wilson Contreras goes at 1305, then CJ Crone at 1306. Stephen Kwan, who we talked about before, at 1307. At a certain point, again, you'll take him for the steals and the batting average and hope that he gives you anything close to the home run total again. Ahmed Rosario, I think a huge value at 1308. Welsh, wouldn't you agree here? Like, that's a player that might have between the eligibility, flexibility that he gives you, between the stolen bases that he gives you. Rosario, I think, is an underrated roto player. Don't you agree?
Yes, I agree with that. I don't know if I would claim at 130 in a 10-man league that he's like a value. An interesting thing that happened here, but I think he's a great piece. I think he's a great piece to your roto team. An interesting thing that did happen here that I feel like I'm seeing a little bit more is he went above Jeremy Pena. Jeremy Pena is still on the board, who kind of sits in that shortstop. Everyone's so like, deep, it'll be okay with him. It's not, and he went ahead of him.
But that's what everybody, they just see it's so deep. But then at the end of the day, all of a sudden it's off the board. You go, oops, I missed it.
There he goes.
Little run here too. Chris Sale goes, then Nico Pointer goes. Two of my
whoops, I missed it. Oh, man.
Speaking of whoops, I missed it. There goes my first baseman. The two options I had, it was Ryan Mountcastle and Andrew Vaughn. Well, they went back to back. So obviously somebody was watching my must-have videos for 2023 on our YouTube channel. Clay Holmes at 1403. Then Jeremy Pena at 1404. Tyler Glasnow at 1405. Kelly's up next at 1406. Then you, the Welsh. So Welsh, she has 5 seconds to make her pick. What are you looking for here?
I know exactly who I want, and she didn't do it. Okay, so the last round, I almost took him. I'm surprised that Nick Lodolo's still out here, especially like having Kirby go, I think, inside the top 100. Hunter Green went right outside of it, and 30 picks later. I know it's a rookie, but I trust Lodolo's stuff more than I trust Hunter Green. 46% whiff percentage on the curveball is absurd and ridiculous. This is a guy that is going to put up big fantasy stats on a bad team. I might not get wins, but guess what? I got you, Darvish. I got Garrett Cole. I'm stacking wins in some other places. So hopefully he can help me with that ratio. So I'm ecstatic that he fell back to me.
All right. So very ecstatic. Duran, by the way, another pitcher too. I am very between Duran and Munoz. Those are two guys. I'm just going to be aggressive. I'd rather be aggressive. Mr. Buster is going to make me real aggressive because he took the guy that I wanted. He just took Lucas Giolito right from under me. We're going to fight, Mr. Buster.
I'm doing it. I'm the guy. I did it.
Oh, look at this. And Johnny Boy takes Jordan Walker.
I did.
All right, talk about Jordan Walker. I'm going to go ahead and make my picks now because now I've got to regroup because I'm on tilt.
Man, he's the perfect player for the shrunken format where you're really going for it all. If a player like Jordan Walker was named the starting whatever left fielder, I don't think it could be third base with Arenado, but let's just say starting player, even if they're going to work him into DH sometimes, he's going like 6 rounds sooner than he would. Sometimes you got to be careful. People tell you to be wary of helium. You have to a point. I mean, Chris Paddock in his rookie year, that was good helium. Corbin Burns in his second year, that was also good helium, right? Guys that were up 150 picks, and you still made a wild profit on them. So I think Walker kind of is that guy. He's really looked fantastic, and sometimes that's what you got to do is kind of reach a little bit. So like you said it before, Joe. Sometimes you do have to ignore the reach along because you're going to get it, particularly on the wheel, particularly at the turn.
All right, so while you make your next pick, I'll talk about mine. Freddie Peralta for me. I almost doubled up at starting pitching again, took Joe Ryan too, but instead I decided to take Jeffrey Springs, giving me a little bit RP, SP eligibility there. Yeah. I like that. Gives me a little flexibility if Munoz isn't necessarily closing to start in April, which, again, I think it's a matter of time. You took Estrada, who is interesting because we just spoke about him with Steve Gardner on the show last week. If you missed that, go check it out over on the podcast, over on the YouTube channel. And he was very high on Estrada, too, as a guy that really didn't get enough credit for what he did and how long he did it for in 2022. What are your thoughts on Estrada in this season?
Yeah, I think he's a victim of a couple narratives. One, that San Francisco doesn't play people every day. That may be true if you only play a single position, which he doesn't. And you get three position eligibility here, but generally at least 2. The other knock I've heard is on the power, and this is something I've really focused on this offseason, and it's pull power and lifting the ball in the air. So I know you don't look at Estrada and think hulking power, and nor should you, but This is a fact. Last year, he pulled 66 fly ball line drive. That's a lot. That puts you in like the top third of the league. That was good for 13 home runs and 7 doubles. The point being, it's part of his profile that he pulls line drives. And those, Joe, with the new mush ball and the Rays scenes, are one of the things that kind of supersede, the suppressed offense. If you're not going to hit towering fly balls, which are no longer as effective as they used to be, right? We've seen the production on barrel rates come down. This is objective fact. The balls that are going out are the low line drives. Tyro Estrada, one of those guys. Him, right. Andres Jimenez, Tommy Edman. I'm not saying none of them are going to hit 30, but don't put them in the single digits. Don't do that because they're going to get you 12.
All right. Let's go to the next one here. We've also got some questions here in the chat we'll try to get to in a second. Let me recap these picks first. After I took Jeffrey Springs, I don't know if that made Welsh happy or sad.
I was about to say, like, hey, Joe, what's 4 minus 5? What's 5? What's 4 minus 5, Joe? I'll count down the fingers. 1,
negative
2.
1.
Okay.
Anthony Rizzo, another player I was actually contemplating because first base, man, it doesn't matter. 10-team league, first base is still bad. Newt Barr goes to Welsh. No surprise there. So let's talk about your selection there.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm just not getting stuff to come back to me, and you can't rely on ADPs. You got to get your guys and stuff. I really thought I would have a shot with Springs as well. If I go into any draft, everyone should know at this point, what are 2 players that I want? I want Jeffrey Springs and I want Lars Nootbaar on my team. I only had 2 outfielders this entire time. I was planning around Lars Nootbaar, who I believe, I was actually talking with Paul Spohr about this yesterday. He thinks he could push to 30 homers. I think it's 25 plus. I think he's going to get stolen bases. He's going to lead off. There's going to be a bunch of runs on a fantastic Cardinals team. He is the pick of pick. And it's incredible where I can still get him where other guys are rising. He's not. Lars Nootbaar is a must of all players. I just didn't want to mess around, even though the system did tell me it was an 83% reach.
I got to reach on Munoz too.
It ain't.
Who cares? We've got some questions here too. This is from Mason, who asked us, how big of an advantage basically is Mookie Betts at second base eligibility on ESPN? And I think it's a huge one. You know me, Welsh. I'm not a big Mookie Betts guy where he's going right now, but at second base eligibility, it changes the dynamic. I don't think we're looking for 30-something steals from him anymore, but I just think at this point it's different. Then Charles Allen has a question. 14th round Jazz Chisholm or 15th round Christian Javier? Johnny boy, you want to take that one?
Ooh. Wait, who was the first one?
Jazz Chisholm in the 14th or Christian Javier in the 15th?
Javier everywhere. He's
Javier like everywhere. I agree.
Oh, the hit did that almost right? Almost right.
Really? I'm actually surprised you said that. Javier over a 14th. They're essentially the same round. Pitcher over the hitter in this.
I'm not a big Jazz guy. I know I took him here because I was
going to say
he's got the explosives. Yeah. He's got the explosives. Javier, I think, has the goods to win the Cy Young. And I'm always.
I don't like jazz as a music particularly. I lived with his jazz musician in college. He was very talented, but he went from being interested in jazz music and like, oh, this is really good, to hating life and wanting to jump off.
And he'd tell you, he'd be like, Joe, don't drink coffee. You should drink green tea.
Actually, no, that's all he drank was coffee all day long.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, that's a good
ironically, all I drink is green tea in the morning. So I'm the soft one at this point.
Oh, who did it to me? Come on, Johnny.
See, there you go. All right, so somebody screwed Johnny boy. Let's get back to the picks.
Yeah.
Then we can take some of your questions. After Nootbaar, Chapman, Charlie Morton, Hunter Renfroe, Rowdy Tellez, Ty France, nice value there, 1509. He's just a good player. Josh Bell, so now I've got no one to play first base. I got to have to have Keith Hernandez back and get him a glove. Chris Bassett at 1601, MJ Melendez at 1602, Brendan Lau at 1603, Suarez at 1604. Then we have Dustin May at 1605, Joe Ryan, great value there for Kelly Kirby at 1606. No surprise there. Boy, she is killing this. If she doesn't win this draft, then something's wrong.
Kelly's
Chris
killing
Welsh.
Me.
You are up at 1607. You got 8 seconds.
I'm going to do this. I know the oblique is an issue, but I can have bench depth. I'm going to take Seiya Suzuki, who comes in as a 4th outfielder. He was lining up to be an outfielder 3 easy for me, top one inside the top 100 before the oblique, which I'm worried about causing problems, but it happened early spring. So you got an entire month to kind of recover. I'm acknowledging how I'm taking him as a 4th outfielder, though. I will have to find replacement, but I think he was a tier step above a lot of the guys that are left, and I'm very comfortable with taking one of these next guys because I would have been stuck with him anyways. So this is a situation where I eat a couple weeks and I get Seiya Suzuki back at outfielder 4.
All right. Alejandro Kirk goes to Mr. Buster, so that's good. So I'm not mad at him anymore. So Jesus Luzardo goes to John, which is, again, a player in my queue. We'll talk about him in a second. I'm going to go ahead and take one of our, first I'm going to take what the Draft Wizard tells me to. I'm going to listen to the Draft Wizard. I'm going to take Brandon Nimmo here as a top lift. Again, gives me a little bit of everything. I like that. I got a thumbs up. value pick there. And then I'm going to go ahead and take Jose Miranda, a player that we've talked quite a bit about, Welsh, that I think is just a really solid value there. I desperately needed somebody at first base. My corner and middle spots are still wide open. I'm going to need some help there. I got 2 utility spots, but I'm very happy with my pitching staff. Jonathan India goes next to you here, John. So Luzardo in India. Luzardo has teased at moments. India, coming off a dreadful season, but 2 years ago looked like a real stud. So do you think both of these guys are going to bounce back this season?
Yeah, and it looks Luzardo looks phenomenal right now.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how many innings we're gonna get, and if you held the gun to my head, I probably
I would have
not gonna
taken
go
him
over.
if you didn't take him there, John. I had him
I'm
all lined
probably
up.
not
So.
going over 130. Yeah, Joe, you and I are so aligned.
Yeah,
I think that's how you win these leagues, right? I think that's how you win them. Go for the explosives.
Mhm.
There's no Miles Mikolas will be there if you need him. Boring 5 inning guys without strikeouts. I just don't feel that's how you move the needle in 10-team leagues. And Jonathan India, I think he's going to be okay, but he gets my favorite boost in all of baseball: Great American Ballpark. People I don't think are selling it where it belongs. Like, it's not even Cora's 2.0. Cora's maybe Great American Ballpark 2.0. I don't know if you saw this. So Great American Ballpark was number 1 in every home run metric by a country mile, Joe, right, to be expected, but also total home runs, home run to fly ball, home run to barrel by a mile. And the Reds only had a single player to hit 20. One. It was 20 on the nose. Not another player went over 15. Think about that. What if they were good?
I was going to say, it has nothing to do with anything except the fact that the roster was terrible last year. And
but the total home runs were still there. So it's not like, oh, the rate was there, and if they just get the players. Great American Ballpark was responsible for the most home runs, regardless of having a bottom barrel offense, carrying half of that number. Man, everybody's just so good in Great American Ballpark. I think that's Colorado. If you're streaming, look for games in Cincinnati.
All right, as we continue to go through here after Jonathan India, Mr. Buster selects Pablo Lopez. Well, she took Jordan Montgomery. Let's talk about what you think he can contribute to the Cardinal rotation this year, because he looked pretty good when he came over from the Yanks.
Yeah, the change was huge, and it's probably no surprise with the Cardinals' way and the success that they find. Both Jose Quintana kind of had the same thing. But this is, I think, a great win situation, and that is something outside of Nick Lodolo. My rotation has been built around teams that put their pitchers in best positions to win. Guys that go deal. Logan Webb, maybe it's a little bit of inferior team with the Giants, but he goes deep into games. Garrett Cole, Darvish, that's an easy win situation. Jordan Montgomery, the same thing. I think there's a kind of a clump of guys here, but I was pretty comfortable with it. And then, of course, I was lining this up to take Bryce Harper in the next round, but he went a couple picks later because I just felt we're in the territory where he is worth the risk, especially with the roster construction that we have here, where like I'm down to util and catcher. This would have been the prime position to take him, and that was a really good pick by, I think it was it Mallman?
Hans Moleman took it, I believe, from The Simpsons. We have going after Montgomery, Jeff McNeil, then Sean Murphy, Cronenworth, Singer. There it is, Bryce Harper, 1709. Finally, the ADP started to fall. Remember the early drafts where the ADP for Harper was still like, I don't know, like a 4th round? I was like, what are people, do they not realize what's going on here? What's happening? After that, that's fine. 1709, you want to take a shot on Bryce Harper in a 10-team league? I got no issue with that. Especially, I'm more apt to take a shot on Harper in the more shallow leagues because it's easier to replace for those first 3 months. You can find somebody off the waiver wire. It gets hot for a month or two. Fairbanks goes at 1710, then Riley Green, David Bednar at 1802, 1803, Brian Hayes. I'm not touching that guy with a 10-foot pole. I'm over it. 1804, Haniger, then 1805, Alex Cobb, Josh Naylor, another one of the favorite guys. Ariel Cohn was on 2 weeks ago talking about him. Then William Contreras to you, the Welsh. Nice pickup here at catcher. Well done, buddy.
Well, that was my last one. I love William Contreras because he's also one of these guys this team can implement as a DH. This is a lot of what he did with the Braves last year. Just big power that he can put up. He had that crazy stretch of home runs. This is a 20-plus home run catcher, and he was the last of this tier. There's still one more catcher I like in Tyler Stevenson, and then it changes, and I just think the value – I would be comfortable waiting because we're in a 10 team, but I also don't want to fall crazy behind and let everybody else have these really solid tier catchers and me have the Cal Raleighs or something like that. Like I want to be in the upper tier. I just got it at the very cheapest cost at the expense of a couple other players I didn't want to take, but I'm pretty happy to get him because I was targeting Sean Murphy and Alejandro Kirk fell as well pretty decently.
Paul Sewald goes next at 1808, then Alexis Diaz goes after that to John. I took Ketel Marte and Alec Baum, so I took care of my middle and corner spots there with back-to-back picks. And honestly, I'm pretty happy with that. Like those are two guys that I feel like I kind of know what I'm getting, and there's a small hint of possibility that they actually perform much better than projections and expectations this
John
year.
snipe
So
me.
I do like that. And then Reed Detmers, a fantastic selection at 1902. So Detmers and Diaz, Johnny, talk about him.
These are both guys, actually. You got to be careful with ADP. ADP a lot of times is generalized. These are players on the move. So if you're looking at the macro ADP, you're not going to end up with these players. Diaz, I don't know. I guess people just don't think the Reds will win a lot of games, which I don't know if I necessarily disagree, but I would also think that a lot of those wins are going to be very close. And he
Right.
seems like the exclusive closer. I know people keep saying the Reds haven't used a single closer. They haven't had anybody. They've tried. They can't stay on the field between Garrett and Sims and
Mm-hmm.
Antone. It's literally been a carousel. I think if they had somebody with the skills of Diaz, who I think is legitimately filthy on the mound, so I think he's a great pop for saves. And if you don't get it or he looks bad, you easily replace him. And then Reed Detmers, who I mean, in front of our eyes last year, blossomed after that
Mm-hmm.
demotion, adding velo, fixing the slider, or fixing the shape of the fastball. Then he took off. And I don't know why people are not necessarily buying it. It feels like an Angels thing. I think one of the first things was, the Angels, I don't know, 6-man rotation. I guess. I mean, as long as he's getting the rock once a week for the cost, I feel like all that stuff is baked in. Detmers also looks like he tacked on some extra velo this spring. So, yeah, we could be wheels up for Detmers. He could be a real sneaky, like finishes an SP2 kind of guy out of nowhere.
Yeah, I'm 100% with you on Reed Detmers. I think it's a great value there. Daniel Bard at 1903. Drew Rasmussen goes to you, Welsh, at 1904. Your thoughts?
Yep. You didn't let me have Jeffrey Springs. This is another one of those guys that, moved out of any type of like shortened inning situation. The Rays moving slowly away from that. Really great stuff. I know a lot in the industry, many in the industry actually like Drew Rasmussen more than him. I'm actually shocked that he fell so far because as far as ADP goes, Rasmussen and Springs are almost like a 1-2 punch. They're
Yep.
within 2 or 3 SP spots of each other, but there was about a 50 pick difference. So Rasmussen just absolutely fell. And, I am monitoring a cool thing. If people will check out what you can do when you're drafting on Fantasy Pro system is there's a bunch of tabs at the top and you can go and take a look at the cheat sheet, what it's telling you to do, but you can also look at categories and you can build your categories as you go.
Mhm.
And I can see that my hitting is falling far behind, which I hope to catch up soon. But a guy like Drew Rasmussen is filling all the categories for me to get my pitching back up because I think I need to maintain my pitching and I'm going to come back in later rounds with hitting. So another cool reason to monitor these tools here. But Rasmussen was kind of a no-brainer. He was a ridiculous deal. And I think the system gave me the big old thumbs up when I did it around 30 picks.
Mass props there for our boy Johnny Quest punting saves. 0 so far in the saves there for Johnny Quest. Good job there. Don't take no crap off nobody. You don't need saves. You'll find saves eventually. It's fine. After Rasmussen goes, then Kelly ended up taking Ryan McMahon. Andrew Heaney, Welsh. It's a guy that you've been talking
Love.
up quite a bit on the show. So I don't know if you have any remorse about that one,
Yeah.
taking Rasmussen over him.
Goodwill
or
Jacob
no?
DeGrom, as I call him. Goodwill
Goodwill
Jacob
Jacob
DeGrom.
DeGrom.
So
Not your
I'm
fault.
upset about that.
Brandon Drury, Grayson Rodriguez, Javier Baez at 1909, then Joey Meneses at 1910 to start the 20th round here. Then you have Benintendi, Verdugo. Looking through here, still a fair amount of talent on the board at this point in time. Tovar goes out of my queue. I almost took him last round. He was my next selection. Tovar, somebody that I'm very high on. Welsh, so that be somebody that people are more aggressive on too in drafts, even shallower ones?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, the stolen base power potential, obviously hitting in cores in general is going to help out, but he's a higher contact player that really found his power, his power spot. And I think you can look at like a low key 15-15 season. There was a little bit of concerns before when it was like Brendan Rodgers and Ryan McMahon, but that's gone with the injury. Ezekiel Tovar has got this spot locked in. I'm a little bit worried he's going to hit lower in the order to start because Rockies are weird. He hit Mike Moustakas above him most likely. But if Tovar gets a hit in the top of the lineup, the runs should come up plentiful.
The Rockies have been weird for many years now. It
Yeah,
feels
they're
like
weird.
ever since the Daniel Murphy signing. It was like, hey, we've got a bunch of guys coming up who play second and first base. Let's go sign Daniel Murphy to a long-term
The
contract.
Garrett Hampson is going to be our future, but we need Daniel Murphy right now.
Yeah, we need Daniel Murphy. God, ever since then, I don't know what they think they're doing. Luis Garcia goes, then Hendricks goes, Cabrera goes, then 2007, the Welsh. You're up next.
Oh, I don't love all the players. I'm going to do something a little bit different. I don't think the system is going to love it, but I was just talking about this with Justin Mason yesterday. We're almost in the 200s. We're going to do a buyback on Cody Bellinger. I mean, at the cost return here is so ridiculously cheap at this point. I also have an injury with Suzuki right now to fill. Projections aren't the worst outside of batting average. If there is any rebound, this is one of those few players. I mean, post 150, how many of those have had first overall round statistics? There's not a big number of them. It's like Cody Bellinger, and that's it. Maybe Anthony Rendon was the closest to that in previous years of the batting average, but a little bit of risk with Cody Bellinger with what is, I think, a pretty safe team so far.
I want you to have all the Cody Bellinger. All of it. It's all yours, Welsh.
Yeah.
Luis Arise at 2008, but it was a good speech. I really enjoyed it. John makes a great pick here with Hunter Brown at 2009. I love this pick here. I am up next for my 2 picks, so I'm going to go ahead and take another closer because I need some help there. And then I'm going to take some more steals here with Whit Merrifield, and Welsh can make fun of my speech about Whit Merrifield.
I don't hate him as much as I was earlier in the year. He seems a lot more comfortable, but I still am not like... Look, man, I don't stop my game plan to be. I
don't need him to have 200 hits. All I need him to do is steal me 20-something bags and hit 260. You do that at this value, I'm a very happy man. So I took Jose Leclerc too because he's got a job. I need more saves. Yoshida at 2102. So John, you took Brown and Yoshida. Let's talk about the guys, especially Brown, because that's a player that I think is going to get a lot more run this year. It's kind of similar to last year with Christian Javier. Same setup. This is a guy who's really good, young talent coming up. There's going to be opportunities for him. And it just feels like with Lance McCullers' elbow and God knows what else happens, Hunter Brown's going to get some moments in the rotation.
Yeah, I would even speak to both of these picks. The next one I made was Yoshida, both of them. Talent plus opportunity plus strong contextual environment plus a good draft price. So they were easy for me. People have reached for Brown. That helium seems to have settled a bit. I don't know. It's weird. Not much seems to have changed. I've heard sharp people like Wells talk about maybe some control issues, but his price has wildly swung. So when it's at the lower end of the sine wave, Houston's just been so good with developing youngsters and then also letting them go, right? We don't tend to do that. Houston may hold them to 100 innings. It just feels like they have such a good plan for everybody. They did it with Javier last year. They managed to baby him without babying him. It didn't feel like he missed a start because he wasn't injured, but he only made 26 starts because the Astros are also very good at working the schedule. So I think they'll do the same thing with Brown, although we've heard like Grayson Rodriguez may get pulled after 4, and I have nothing to go on this by other than some anecdotal stuff. I don't see Houston doing that. I don't think they can afford to do that and pull Brown. I think they'd rather have Brown go every 6 days, have 26 opposed to 31 starts and make up the innings that way, deeper individual games. I don't know, but at the price, I think Brown is fantastic. Plus, of course, he's in line for wins every 5 days.
John Gray goes next, followed by Kodai Senga to Welsh. So Welsh, this ADP for Senga continues to be way too low.
Yeah,
and again, weird. I couldn't even pull him up on the sheet there. I didn't even have him up there because still the consensus is still way too low. I got to start using my cheat sheet every time. I got so many things going on here. I'm clicking stuff. I'm moving back and forth. I'm taking questions. Sometimes it hurts my draft, and you skunked me there. Good job.
You do. I got to say, like, I was just kind of sitting and staring at it, and I have had him for the last 3 rounds, and it's just, you got to take the risk. He should
go 3 rounds ago.
Yeah, he should have gone a long time ago, so that's why I just pulled the trigger. It's and he's a bench starting pitcher right now. Again, like a little bit of weirdness with guys like maybe Nick Lodolo, even though I got a deal on him. Senga's an incredible bench starting pitcher to have on potential alone, and I'm not basing my entire rotation off of him, so I'm happy.
All right, I'm going to plow through the rest of these here. We should, everyone get your cues ready. We're going to go ahead and wrap this up here. After Senga, then Scott Barlow, Dominguez, Cassis goes. Nice selection there by J. Full Metal. Then we have Oscar Gonzalez, Tony Gonsolin, Cal Raleigh, the aforementioned, then Justin Turner, Lourdes Gurriel at 2202. Welsh, that's a guy that you've been talking about late in drafts. You taking a shot on, but not on your team.
That's what That's what I ought about. I was 100% going to take it. Well, John broke my heart earlier because I took the Bellinger pick with the intention of backing him up with Yoshida, like having complete opposites of having the batting average to kind of cure that a little bit, plus the run totals. And then when I didn't get him, I was like, okay, I'm going to go with Lourdes. It didn't happen again because Lourdes, my big key on him is Lourdes is hitting 3 for the Diamondbacks, and it's happened all spring long. And I think that's a game changer to his RBI numbers. This is like we talked about the Jordan Walker pick a little bit earlier and the value that he is. This is another one that people haven't caught up to. I shouldn't be able to get Miguel Vargas at 217, but I just did. And there's no way he's going to start at second base for the Dodgers. offense in general works in his play. The guy was walking when he wasn't swinging the bat. He's just a great option across the board. Stolen bases, homers. He gets on base by walking. OBP would even be better. 217, I shouldn't be able to get him, but I did.
But you did. I'm going to go ahead and take Trey Mancini, give me a little bit of depth there at the corner spot. And, it's a matter of, do I want to take some more steals here, or do I want to take some more power? I think we're going to go ahead. I'm really low on power still, so I'm going to take Jock Peterson here. So him and Conforto, they're both still on there, but I got the value pick and the thumbs up, so that's a good thing. So let's continue to recap the picks. Stevenson, Patrick Sandoval, Vaughn Grissom, who was in my queue, he is gone at 2205. Then Ramon Laureano, Vargas to Welsh, Harrison Bader to Mr. Buster, Jared Kelenic to you, John. Then I took Mancini and Peterson. You also took Rogers in Miami. So let's talk about reclamation projects, because that's what you're doing here.
Drafting everybody that's broken my heart in the past. Let's go. Dialing up all the ex-girlfriends, man. It's 3 a.m.
You have relationship issues, John, I think. I think it might be some, might have to go to that
I've had too much
talk
to drink.
space. Is that it?
Yeah. I'm digging through the Facebook DMs right now, looking for ex-girlfriends. Listen, Jared Kelenic, I think we all have seen that. I think we all know. And it's funny because it's so polarizing. You have the people who are certain the breakout is coming. You have people who are certain he's going to fall flat in his face. I don't know, but I do know if we get that explosion is going to be awesome, right? We've seen just such dynamic ability from him, power and speed. He goes so incredibly late. You've been nailed it before. You take your risks on the bench. Like, I don't even have to start him. You just kind of wait and see. And if he comes out of the box really hot, you might have a league-winning pick on your hands. Now, again, I'm not saying the probability of it is very high, right? You got to be careful we do that. But I think Kelenic is that. Same for Trevor Rogers. The skill was always there. The velo was always there. The off-speed stuff was good. And I think he could bounce back. He also, I think he hasn't walked a batter this spring yet.
Like, I was very high on him last year, and I was
me too. And it burned pretty bad. That hurt.
Of all the L's that I took last year, that one did hurt me a lot because
I got a welt on my bottom. Yeah,
I saw this guy just being the dude, and it did not materialize last year. I know sometimes lefties get off their mechanics and things happen, so maybe he bounces back. Mondesi goes to Mr. Buster. Speaking of bounce backs, then you took Lang here, Alex Lang in Detroit Welsh. Let's talk about him before we get to the rest of these picks here as we close out the draft.
Yeah, I mean, you're at a spot where I already had two closers, and I've actually been projected to be, I think, at the top of the overall closing market. But I looked at the rest of the closers, and I don't see a lot of gigs that make any sense. And there's only two, really, that I can look at and say, like, oh, yeah, that guy has a job, except Alex Lang, who's looked really good this spring and is going to be the closer for Detroit. How many opportunities? That's a big in question. But I now have three no-doubt closers going into this, and I feel pretty good about it. And he's very popular, buzzy. Even though it said it was a reach, he wasn't going to last much longer.
Okay, continuing on with the rest of the picks here. After Welsh makes a selection of Lang, then Seth Brown, Rendon, Mikolas, Josh Young, nice selection there. Then we have Merle Kelly, then CJ Abrams, who's also on my list. He is off now. 2401, Jorge Lopez, Evan Phillips of the Dodgers at 2402. John, is Phillips the closer? Is it just said and done for you?
I don't know, but I had him queued up right after Alexis Diaz because I'm just going to stay on brand, and that is the ceiling pick. If you get the definitive Dodgers closer, that is a windfall profit. I think even where he's going, I think it's a neutral pick. He's highly skilled, so you're not risking ratios. I believe at the very least he's in line for, a share of the saves. How it's going to pan out, I don't know. But at that, again, I just beating a dead horse. At that point, you play for topside. There is no greater topside than tacking 40 saves onto potential Evan Phillips stat line.
Okay, then Kimbrel, DJ LeMahieu. Boy, how the mighty have fallen. DJ LeMahieu in the 24th round. Remember a couple years ago when people wanted him in the third? Yeah. Danny Jansen at 2405. Jesse Winker, another good pick there at 2406. Welsh, you're up at 2407. What do you got?
I was actually going to take Winker there. Surprise, surprise. Kelly sniped. No big surprise by anybody that Kelly did that. I am going to go with one of my favorite pitchers to get. He just threw a side session the other day. Jacob deGrom got all the room, but Nate Eovaldi. Nate Eovaldi's been pumping the velo. That day have a sneaky rotation with a lot of run support. Me and Eno Saris have been talking about him. He's actually one of his favorite kind of middle round starting pitchers to target. And the injury tag is actually going to give you a little bit more of a value on him as I got around the 230s. Though, again, he pitched just the other day and he should be good for opening day.
Okay, continuing on after Eovaldi, Mr. Buster on the clock selects Jose Barrios. John, you're up next at 2409.
Okay, hold on. I think, I got my cue all set. I was looking at former Met. How about Michael Conforto, who again, right? We've had. It
Yep.
almost sounds like Chris Bryant a bit. The talent and the plate approach has never really been in question. It's just if we get him healthy, when we get him healthy. He also started dropping nukes in spring training. Not to overreact to spring training stuff. I've mentioned it a couple times. It's just a matter of health, right? I think if a player hits home runs, they're healthy.
I took Tyler Mahle and Garrett Whitlock there, two of my good late pitchers there.
Beat me to it. I almost went first with that one.
Yeah, well, in Conforto, I was struggling him or, Jock Peterson. Same thing. We always say, well, you take Jock Peterson or Conforto or a round later. My thing is just about, when it comes to Conforto, how much of that layoff affect him? How much is not playing for a whole year? Does it take him a month? Does it take him 2 months to get back into the swing of things? Literally, Kyle Bradish, another one of the names at 2502. So talk about him. What are your expectations for him this season?
I actually think we're going to get like an SP3 finish. So I think he might be like a top 40 to 50 starter, which again is not like, oh my goodness, that's Spencer Strider 2023. Mm-hmm. Not the case. But when you're SP9 or 12 for this man, somebody on the bench has the ability to finish inside the top 50, that's like the most boring way to win a fantasy league. To get a guy that gets the ball every 5 days. I think he's a candidate for 6 innings. The strikeouts have been there. Again, Baltimore, shake that narrative, right? The inability to develop pitching is no more. They've actually done quite well with pitchers now. So we kind of have to get these out of our mind every so often as the cycles wash, right? As the cycle ends. So I think we're seeing some good things from Baltimore. I think Bradish looks really good, tacked on velo and pitches and then efficient mix changes. So yeah, I think he's going to be really good for them. And the ballpark is positive, yeah.
Yeah, ballpark and positive now. Jack Flaherty goes at 2503, then Rojas to Welsh at 2504. So no surprise there as we wrap up these final rounds here of the draft. TJ Friedel at 2505, Finnegan, Segura. Let's talk about Rojas here, Welsh. This is an easy one here, I think, right? Just a good everyday player.
Yep, he's been essentially the everyday third baseman for this team. There's a little bit of adjustment with Longoria, and they're trying to figure out their outfield because Alek Thomas has also looked really good. But Rojas was a 20+ stolen base guy. There's some pop in his bat, and he has the potential to hit closer in the top of the lineup, especially righty versus lefty type of stuff. So 230s, I think this is a great deal. He also qualifies at second, which makes him even a little bit sneakier.
Okay, continuing on here. After Rojas, I said Friedel, Finnegan, Segura, Jameson Taillon, Oscar Colas, 2509, a guy we just talked about the other day, and the prospects on the way up. Jorge Mateo at 2510, then Luis Urias at 2601. So we are in the final rounds here, and we'll see who won the draft. I can assure you right now, I did not win the draft. I'm telling you right now, it never happens. I never win the draft. But I like this roster.
You designed this, didn't you? Is this yours?
I didn't design it.
You didn't
I
design
have nothing
it.
to do with that. People way smarter than me. But just kind of looking at the rosters here, because I know we're running a little long here.
Your face always pops up and tell me I stink, though.
Yeah, that's okay. Look, get your guys. Last year they told me I reached on Justin Jefferson every time I took him first overall, and that worked out pretty well. Yeah. Will Smith at catcher for me, Jose Miranda, then Andres Jimenez at second, Bo Bichette at short. I have Austin Riley, Alec Boehm, Ketel Marte, Julio Rodriguez, Eloy Jimenez, Santander, Nimmo, Whit Merrifield, Peterson. The pitching staff, McClanahan, Woodruff. Then I have Springs, Manoah, Musgrove, Peralta, Munoz, and Doval. So some good arms there. Leclerc, Mahle, Mancini, and Whitlock. Welsh, what do you think about that squad here? You think that dog will hunt?
I think that dog will hunt. I don't think it's going to hunt in projections, but I think it'll hunt.
Not.
That's the thing.
I know it's not going to hunt in projections. I can tell you that right now.
Yeah, it's not going to. All right, this is a boring pick.
So no.
I need some more.
Again, projections are good. It's a good way to gauge. But at the end of the day, if projections were always perfect, then we wouldn't be playing this game, would we?
Yeah, and by the way, I have no idea how mine's going to finish out because my pitching, I am pretty high in pitching. I have one category in hitting I'm the best, and the rest are at the bottom. So this is going to be one of those Ricky Bobby. I'm going to predict right now. I feel like I'm going to finish like fifth or fourth in this.
Well, I took Colton Wong and Cruz here to finish up. Well, let's look at your team here and get a sense of what's going on with your roster. You have, let's see, again, if Kelly Kirby doesn't win, who knows? You have Contreras at catcher, William, that is, Goldschmidt, Muncy, Corey Seager, getting all the old Dodgers back together. Jose Ramirez, Gunnar Henderson, O'Neill Cruz, then Michael Harris, McCarthy, Seiya Suzuki, and Nootbaar. You're right. It is, a little tough in the outfield there. I'm telling you, don't sleep on these outfielders,
I
folks.
mean, buddy, I've
Cody
been saying it the
Bellinger,
whole offseason. It's hard to
I
follow
know,
my own.
but even in 10 teams being it's there. No, it's not. Cody Bellinger, Rojas, then you have Garrett Cole, Yu Darvish. I mean, that's a pretty good start with Hader, Helsley, Logan Webb, Nick Lodolo, Jordan Montgomery, and Drew Rasmussen. The bench is Eovaldi, Hayes, Senga, Vargas, De La Cruz, and Lang. Look, I think this is a pretty good roster here.
Yeah.
I certainly like the way you attack the infield very well, but how do you feel about it?
Yeah, no, I'm pretty happy with this. I mean, there's a lot of my targets. Before Seiya got hurt, I really wanted Seiya Suzuki. I got a little bit of risk. Bellinger and O'Neill Cruz are a lot of risk, but I have so much good offensive support. I'm projected number 1 in stolen bases here, which I think gives me a really good bottom line. I think the pitching staff, I got closers I really dig. There's a few holes in a 10 team that maybe you don't have, but I think it's gonna do all right. I think the projections are being a little harsh on me on like runs and homers and stuff like that. I actually think I'm pretty stacked on the home run totals.
All right, let's get to Johnny Boy's team as we close things out here for the last couple picks. So John, your roster: Real Muto, Alonso, Chisholm, Estrada, Alex Bregman at third, then Jordan Walker, the Leap of Faith, India, Acuna, O'Neill, Ward, Happ, Martinez, Conforto, Spencer Strider, Castillo, Kenley Jansen, Alexis Diaz, Robbie Ray, Luzardo, Reed Detmers, Hunter Brown. This definitely has a first or last kind of feel to it. John with Yoshida, Rogers, Manaya, Kelnick, and Brendan Donovan and Bradish on the bench. What do you think of this roster, and what grade did they give you, John?
I'm seeing 75 out of 100, so I guess I barely passed. Hopefully, I'll be allowed to go out. Hopefully, my wife will let me go out this weekend and play with my friends.
Well, not if you keep checking those DMs before the
Yeah, definitely stay away from the Facebook DMs. You know what? This is how we would want to feel coming out of it. Again, we don't know what's going to happen. This team has all the strikeout potential you could possibly ask for, with batting average, with pop, with speed, with balance, and home runs. This team is as strong as I can feel about one coming out of a draft. I'm usually not the type to say I nailed the draft. I'm normally already thinking about week 0 and how I'd add to it. But yeah, I really like it. I especially like the pitching staff. Strikeouts.
Well, I finished right above you. I got a B. It was an 83 for me, and I'm fine. I usually get a B plus on this because I am too aggressive on my certain players. But the winners of this draft here: number 3, J Full Metal K, Schomer CS Chomer 0767 had a 94, and the mailman brought it home and delivered the number 1 spot. Congratulations to the mailman. Hey, Welsh, Kelly beat you, but not by much, 87 to 85.
I know. I finished above you guys, but Kelly did finish right above here. This is a
but
pretty
all that
fun
matters,
one.
Welsh, hot take here, right from the draft software itself. Joe Pizza P at Fantasy Pros liked my draft more than any other expert.
Oh, did you really? Hey, you know who liked my draft more?
Mike Mayer and Scott Pianowski liked my draft, and they never liked my drafts. Ariel Cohn hated it, by the way. But I'm just glad that finally I got the respect of Mike Mayer after all these years.
Mine was Todd D. Clark. Andy Barron's really liked mine. I got Scott White, but you know who's the third most liked? Kelly Kirby. Kelly never likes my drafts. Kelly loved my draft, so I'll take the win.
All right, John, who liked your draft more than anybody else on that experts tab on the expert opinions? Did you get anybody who was positive with you or negative that you want to?
I don't know. I'm lost. There's so much going on. I'm lost.
Well, that's the beauty of it.
Stop judging me. Well, I don't think
opinions right at the top.
I just clicked on it. I can give it for him.
Yeah. Hook me up, Welshie.
Fred Zinke loved John.
Well, there you go.
I like Fred.
He wins everything.
Yeah, he's very well. He's also very risky, right? So.
Also, Dalton Del Don, Jeff Bogus, Nick Mariano,
first
and
to
Chris
last,
Towers.
bro. First to last.
And
Yeah,
Chris Towers.
There you
Munstradamus hated yours the most, though. So watch out for Munstradamus.
Always watch out for that. Everybody, make sure you go to the Twitter machine and follow our good friend John Legeza over on Twitter because he's a heck of a good guy, great baseball mind as well, and does some of the best statistical work out there. I've known John for literally years now. Again, follow him, John Legeza. Go check out his work at The Athletic, and he does some just fantastic stuff. And I encourage everybody out there, make sure you drop the comment in the chat. Maybe you get a chance to go ahead and you come away with one of our fantastic premium subscriptions. But if you don't want to wait, and you don't have to wait, you go over right now, fantasypros.com/premium. Go upgrade today. You can get yourself all set up there. Again, fantasypros.com/premium. Don't forget to make sure when you go and subscribe to the premium product here at Fantasy Pros, you use everything here we're giving you, the best suite of tools possible for all of your drafts. the draft assistant with Stink, the cheat sheets, all the things that we have available for you here. They can really help get you the best team possible, and that's what we want to do. So download the Draft Wizard app or go to fantasypros.com/draftwizard today. And thanks, shout out to everybody who participated in the draft. And go be a peanut and a cracker jack. Join our Discord, fantasypros.com/chat, and subscribe to Fantasy Pros MLB, because leading off every single day is going to start before you know it, and so will the MLB season. That'll do it for us, of course, but the story of the game goes on. For John and Welsh and our great producer, Chris, the best there is, the best there was, the best there ever will be. We'll see you next